Hey, Warren Bird with lead author Jim Tomberlin of the book Better Together, How to Make Healthy Church Mergers Work. And one question we're often asked is, so what did we leave out of the book? Meaning, what have we learned since then that we wish we had included? And one thing is guidance. A lot of churches have found they do church mergers well. And they're like, well, many of these God has just brought our way. I wonder if how we hold out the shingle to say to others, hey, it's a win-win. Let's or at least we believe it is. It seems to have been. How do we make this work better? How do we take the initiative? Jim, that's something you and I have talked about that we wish we could have added. What's a tip that you?
Well, we did have one chapter that we did briefly about how do you initiate these conversations, but probably the number one request I get now from churches, from lead churches, is, Jim, how do we initiate this conversation with a stuck or struggling church in our community that we think could be a good fit, but we don't know how to approach that conversation without coming off as abrasive or as as a takeover. And so we gave a little bit of information about that in our book, but since then we developed a lot more help on how to initiate those conversations in a way that's a positive play.
Okay, so give us an idea or two.
Well, I think we talk about, first of all, are you a merger-friendly church? And so we do some assessments of a church. How merger-friendly are you? Are you unintentionally coming off as arrogant and abrasive in just your language and your approach to ministry? So we do some of that. There's some demographic research you can do on the internet just to find out who would be vulnerable churches who are struggling. It's amazing how much information is out there without that you can find out about churches in your local community that might be very open to a conversation with you about merging. And probably the best way to get into a merger conversation isn't to say, hey, you want to merge with us. A real natural, easy one is finding churches in your community where you'd like to have a campus, a congregation, a multi-site campus, and approaching a church that says, would you be willing to rent space to us? If they're down to 50 people with an auditorium, a worship sanctuary, 500 seats, and they got 50 people, could we rent your sanctuary on Sunday mornings?
And what often happens is that arrangement, if it comes out that way, builds trust,
yes,
builds exposure, and at some point, the potential joining church is easy to say, well, why don't we just become one of your?
That happens a lot. And even if it doesn't, you've given them a financial lifeline by giving them a little bit of income, by renting space. You become good partners together in the community. And so these are some of the simple ways to begin conversation that could end up in a win-win for both churches. Now,
one other piece that we wish we'd put in the book more of was when that merger actually happens, it kind of implied, hey, 1 week we're this church and the next week we're part of something bigger at our campus. And looking back at experiences that have been positive, we've really found that a certain gap where the church that's joining actually ends formally, celebrates the tremendous heritage of the way they were, and then goes to the church they're going to be joining with. Jim, why don't you pick it up from there?
Well, absolutely, Warren. And I've come to the conclusion that two churches, the joining church needs at least a 1 to maybe 3 months hiatus of actually meeting at their original campus. While there's renovations and upgrades going on, that would be the obvious reason outwardly. But
and also that they then can be part of those and the excitement of the new infusion of volunteers from the church they're joining and them kind of partnering together. That is one more way to strengthen the relationship.
Absolutely. And then for a month or 2 or 3, they attend the lead church campus where they can really experience the life-giving DNA of that church that they're now becoming a part of. And then 1 to 3 months later, they relaunch back into their original campus, not only as the original former members, but also now the new members that are coming in from the sending church as an integrated, relaunch core. I just find that to be a lot healthier emotionally for the joining church folks to have that break. It's hard for them. It's one of the hardest issues to overcome when we suggest the idea of taking a 1 to 3 month break between the approval and the relaunch of their campus. But that was something we didn't develop much at all in our book, and this is something that's becoming a major component of our recommendations.
And frankly, Jim, that's something you and Multi-Site Solutions help coach people through with the merger. You're not just Multi-Site Solutions, you are merger solutions. Yeah. As well. So we got more videos in this series where we just give kind of updates and insights. Just Google our names and you ought to be able to find it in the book again, Jim Tomberlin, Warren Bird, Better Together, How to Make Healthy Mergers Work. Thanks so much.
Thank you.